I was born in Denmark, and I have a musician father, songwriter and producer, and played in bands. I was always free to play a lot of music in the house. Well, I started playing piano when I was probably 2, because it was there. And singing always like any other baby, you know, every child sings. When I was around 5, I started playing the violin. My mother took me to this open house thing for the music school in the town, and I just fell in love with the violin, and I could not put it down for 4 hours. I started taking violin lessons. I got a violin. Started playing in an orchestra with other kids my age, but some older also. That's how I got into classical music. And at the same time, I started dancing ballet, so it was kind of a all-around thing for me at the time already. This whole time, of course, I also liked all kinds of other music genres. My dad, his music is more Tom Petty, Fleetwood Mac style of Denmark. And he played me all kinds of records, and I particularly was just always interested in the choir and these very beautiful Nordic voices, particularly the Norwegian, which have a different tone than the Danish classical folk tradition. Ours tend to be a little more Christian, if you will, where they held on more to the original Scandinavian pagan sound. It's like in folketone. Folk tone, or folk style, I guess you can say. I was very fascinated with these particular singers, female voices. And that style of that universe of chords, and that universe of music too, which is this very sort of disorienting between major and minor. And the melodies are very strong and repetitive, and yeah, there's this very frozen sound to all of it. It just captures everything I think about when I think about home. Then I went to school, normal school, like anyone else, and I went to the music line of that. I've never really played that much with other people, to be honest. It was always very much me alone playing, and I don't know why. I guess I was always very protective about. There's a big gap between what I do alone and what I wish to show the world. So I guess I always kind of kept it to myself. And then I started traveling around the world. I started going to Stockholm a lot, where you could say there's a stronger music scene than in Denmark. I also started traveling in the United States. I got to see a lot of states here, which is very impressive when you come from such a small country, you know. It's an unreal place for me. So I'm happy I've gotten to see so much of it. Played in different band projects and just kept writing music, and then at some point these demos for the EP were played for someone else, and it took about 6 months for me to sort of get into the idea that this would be shared with the world, maybe, you know, or whoever wants to hear it. And then that came out, and now I'm here. And it's weird to me that it's only been a year since the first song of the EP came out, and I've actually done a whole new record since that. It's weird that it went so fast. Piano, guitar, singing, of course. I've experimented with drums a little bit, but it's not my stronger side. I mostly start with a guitar riff or a choir piece. I guess classical piano. I can actually feel these coordinates, like brain cells forming when I rehearse classical piano. It's so much more than just the music, which I adore. It's the coordinate. It's just everything is so challenging and just rewarding to play. I wish I was better at strings now, you know, because at some point you give up the classical only, which tends to be violin that way, and move on to other things. And the guitar, I take a lot from my classical background with me into black metal, because even the technique of the bow, the tremolo picking and the stabs, and there's very many similarities between black metal and classical music like that. Even not just the sound and this darkness and contrast, but also actual technique. Well, to me, there would not be black metal as we know it today had it not been for this worship of nature. Not necessarily just Norse mythology, but traditional Scandinavian history and, you know, culture. And just a certain look upon life that I guess is a bit typical for that part of the world. We just love our history. You know, we love our culture, and like any other culture, it's been ruined by other religions. In a sense, you know, I don't walk around thinking about Christianity or anything like that. But I mean, if you look at the history, it's certainly something that has helped suppress and bury a little bit what our actual history and culture is. And now it's other religions coming in doing the same, and we just a lot of the time don't like that. It's a classic Danish thing. We don't mix state and religion. We don't really think that that's appropriate. This style of metal is reinforcing a lot of those things, so it does, I guess, become a little bit of a not political thing, but it has some messages, of course, besides just being beautiful music. I got to play my debut show at Roskilde Festival, which is you know, a big thing for a Danish person. I mean, we think it's bigger than any festival in the world, even though we know it's not. I was there as a guest when I was a baby because my father played, but I haven't been there since. It was just an overall big experience for me, and I just wanted to not compromise with the sound and all, and I wanted it to be the way I visualized it. So I brought 5 girls from the Norwegian choir, girls choir, and I brought the same guys that were on my record, Tilak, Øyvind and Stian, as the metal foundation of the performance, and it was a very big experience for me. And I was surprised to hear these songs come to life this way. I had never dreamed that could even happen when I started doing this. It was definitely a dream. In my world, it's hard to go up from what I just worked with, at least for me personally. And I grew up loving Ulver and Mayhem so much, heroes of mine, and I'm open, but I don't have anything in mind really now. So we'll see. I mean, I'd like to work with a symphony orchestra. Now I got to work with the choir, and right now I'm working on setting up a concert at the Mausoleum, that grave or the tomb in Oslo. I like to do different versions of this album. I think it's gonna lend itself well to be arranged in different ways. The people I have in my band right now is anything that I could ever hope for, sound-wise at least, and so I'm looking forward to touring, playing more shows like that. It's sort of a saga, the whole album. All the songs are in certain ways connected, and I spend a lot of time getting the track list the way I wanted it as well. Because they do, not only do I like to punish the listener, you know, I have this quiet or very pure pieces followed by something uglier, you know, nastier sounding. But I wanted it to lyrically mix together, which it does. It's a story that I'm telling on the record. It's hard to tell this way. It's easier to actually tell through the songs. And of course, since the lyrics are in Danish, that limits what people will understand. But I also have thought of translating them for the people who ask for them in English, because I actually would like to share them. This is not a secret. I would like to communicate what I want to say. You know, Denmark's very small, so, you know, I live in forest, ocean is right here, everything's right next to each other, and 25 minutes away is Copenhagen. So it's very small, but you get all kinds of nature right next to you. It's not like, for example, here where if you live by the ocean, you most likely don't live by a forest, or, you know. So I'm lucky to have grown up this way. I feel extremely just out of place and just amputated if I'm away from this nature. And I finally have accepted it now as a grown-up person, that I do like to travel, but it's not, I can't feel natural away from it too long. It's where I find the most inspiration for everything that I do, and it's what I wish to see when I wake up in the morning or when I go someplace. It's usually to seek out a new version of nature that maybe I haven't experienced. Nature's so giving, you know. See, like that human beings are very taking, and nature's the opposite. And it's very pure and it's very functional. I like things to have function. I don't like anything unnecessary and stupid. I like it to have a purpose, which everything in nature does. And I think it's something we should let us get inspired by in this world that we have today. I like to talk about that or show that through my music or through pictures, to inspire people to perhaps live a life more deeply connected to nature, because it is something that matters a lot to me, and I don't want to see it get destroyed. There's always something that people try to take away from it or build something new on that has no actual value. Certainly won't have any value in 20 years or 100 years. It's just always in my heart. I don't know how to say that other than it is me as a person, as a human being, you know. Who knows how long time you have on this planet, or how many times, or I like to make the most of it, and I like to get out what I wish to say. That's what I'm doing through music, and I can sing about things that I can't speak about in real life, and it's definitely something that feels so natural to me, what I'm doing now, that I just wake up in the morning and I can continue to do this as myself. So the inspiration would just be the person that I'm born as. As a child, I heard metal like anyone else, Slayer, Metallica, and I really liked it more as like a fun, sort of aggressive genre that made me feel something, I remember, as a child. And then as a teenager, I heard black metal the first time. I just had this reaction to it, like, how can anything be so beautiful and so ugly at the same time? It just has reminded me so much of my classical music love and background, and it just took that to a whole new level. And also the message of black metal and the traditional, the love of this culture and this nature that I love, it's just made me feel at home. And I've always written these little folk music pieces, I guess you can say, and classical pieces, and for somewhere along the time I started incorporating more metal style riffs in it, and even the screaming, the melodies that I maybe was imagining as a cello I could do as a tremolo picking. I started mixing it into this sort of freak of nature hybrid, and it just felt so natural. And I wanted to make this music because I don't think it's there. I wanted to combine this beauty of traditional Scandinavian music with another traditional Scandinavian music, which is the black metal style. It just it wasn't something I sat down and chose, more as just something I started experimenting with and I started caring for a lot.